If you're anything like me, you know you were meant for more. There are areas in your life that you know you haven't been willing to give everything that you can give. You've probably been telling yourself for a while now that you want to change certain things about yourself, certain things about your circumstances, or your relationships, or your body, or your work, or your business. Yet, something interesting happens. We continue to make choices that don't contribute to the person that we say we want to become, or that we know deep down inside we're meant to be. I hope this is the last video that you watch before you actually start to become that person that you say you're meant to be, that you know you're meant to be. It's crazy to me because there's a very simple formula that we can follow that will allow us to engage our potential and become that person that we know we're meant to be, but we continue to self-sabotage in different ways. So it's important that we understand first why we self-sabotage. And to understand why we self-sabotage, we have to understand a principle that I call the Iceberg Dilemma. So here's what the Iceberg Dilemma represents. So we have the water line here. Then of course, 10 to 15% of the iceberg is above water. 85 to 90% of the iceberg is below water. Now the portion above the water represents our conscious mind. What's below the water represents our subconscious mind. Now, what's interesting is typically what happens in areas of life where we say that we want to be something, where we say that we're meant to be something, we could do something, but we make choices in life that are in opposition to that thing. What's happening is that in our conscious mind, we're saying, I want to go this direction. And that's like the wind above the surface of the water. But the subconscious mind, because of survival, because of energy preservation, because of stories that we made up when we were little kids to survive certain situations or to make ourselves feel more comfortable or in control, in the subconscious, we can't see the current of the ocean is going that direction. These are subconscious stories that don't support what it is we say we want for the future, because that's something new. It's going to create something. And above this is called vision, where we want to go. Now, think about this just in plain physics terms, right? So if there's 10% above water and 90% below water, and the currents of the ocean and even the strongest winds on that iceberg, which one is going to win? Of course, the current of the ocean is going to win every single time. Every single time, these subconscious stories are going to win if we're unaware. But here's the problem. They're under the surface of the water. When you're boating on the ocean and you see an iceberg, you only see that 10%. That's the conscious choices and the conscious vision that you're talking about. You don't get to see everything that's happening underwater. So how do we get to everything that's below the surface? How do we get to these subconscious stories so that we can make the decisions that can support the person that we know we're meant to be? Now, we have to lower the water level. Now, how are we going to lower that water level to access all these subconscious stories? That's exactly what I want to talk to you about now. The Iceberg Dilemma illustrates all of the times that we say we want something, but we make decisions that don't support that thing that we say we want. For example, I used to own a video production company. I've since sold it. But when we started that company in 2009, we worked our asses off to build that thing as rapidly as we possibly could. Very quickly, we got some really high-profile clients like Volkswagen and Pixar Animation Studios and Target. Before I knew it, it had taken over my life. We were traveling almost 300 days out of the year. And when I wasn't traveling, I was taking care of team dynamics, bidding on new big contracts, and it consumed everything. At the same time, I was telling myself that I was a family man, that my family was the most important thing in the world. I had 2 kids at the time, and I told myself, I lied to myself, or at least that 10% above the water, I was consciously committed to being a family-first man. Like, my family came first, my business came second. But ultimately, when it came down to it, when the choices were made, I would choose the next big contract that required me to travel and be away from my family during anniversaries, birthdays, big events, school performances. I missed everything. And the justification was that I was doing it for them. I also didn't see a way that I could create anything different. So what was happening is that 10% above water was my conscious vision. I had a vision to be a family man. But every time the opportunity of a nice big contract, big dollar signs came in, I would choose that instead. There was all of these subconscious stories and aims going on under the surface that I just couldn't see. And it wasn't until I was willing to lower the level of the water, to take a look at what's underneath, to take a look at the stories I was telling myself, that I could actually change that and create the life and be the man and put my family first that I knew I was meant to be and that I knew that they needed from me. So how did I do that? Well, this was the very simple method that I was talking about earlier. There's actually 4 ways to lower that water level. Number 1 is to consume only who we want to be. You see, there's this principle of introjection. Introjection is where we incorporate the ideas and attitudes of those that we spend the most of our time with. You've heard you become the sum of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with. Well, it turns out that it's actually true. Scientifically, they've done studies around people who consume certain content. And just by mere consuming that content on a regular basis, they start to adopt or absorb the ideals and attitudes of that experience, of that person. Garbage in, garbage out. If we consume things that are holding us down or keeping us down or put us in the attitudes of laziness or bitterness or survival, then that's the experience that we will have in life. However, if we're consuming things that are productive, that are going to shape us or challenge us or help us to think in new ways, or invite us to do things that are difficult, then that's what our life will be. You see, this principle is either useful or incredibly dangerous depending on what you choose to consume. For me, in the story that I shared, I was just consuming the bubble that I lived in. That is it. I only saw my clients. I only saw others in the industry that were doing big things, that had different ideals than I did, and I wanted so badly to become them. So I was willing to sacrifice what I wanted, and I became what they wanted. Number 2, get honest, real feedback from people around you. You see, a fish can't see the water that it's swimming in. Neither can you. You can't see the stories that you've made up that you say are reality and that they're the only way. It's only somebody else's perspective or somebody else's experience of you that can show you something new or something different. So you have to have people in your life that you trust that would be willing to give you feedback. Now, listen carefully. These can't be people. You have to be very careful about who you ask for feedback from, because most of the people in your life are people pleasers. You can't ask for feedback from a people pleaser because they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear, and that's only going to perpetuate the stories or the blindness that you already have. So you must be willing to find the people in your life, and they're out there. You must be willing to find the people in your life who are willing to be absolutely honest with you for the betterment of your circumstances, life, and relationships. Create a circle of trust with people who are willing to be honest and have your best interest at heart. Number 3 is to get clear on the payoffs that you're getting for the choices that you're making and the prices that you're paying. Now, when I say payoffs, and here's the exercise, you can get out a sheet of paper and you can actually draw a line down the middle. On the left side, write payoffs. On the right side, write prices at the top of the paper. And then just set a timer for 10 minutes each side, and just write down all of the payoffs you can think of and all the prices that you're paying for the current choices that you're making that aren't contributing to what it is that you say you want. Let me talk about the payoffs for just a second, because that can be confusing to people. I'm not talking about the payoffs that you get that are positive in your life for these choices that you're making. Like, oh, I get to watch this show that I really love. I'm not talking about that kind of payoff. In the story that I told you earlier about making the choice to let my business consume me rather than invest in my family the way that I knew that I wanted to, the payoffs that I got were much darker and devious than that. And once I really started to dig in, that's when I discovered how dark I can actually be. Meaning, the payoffs that I got out of that is that I got to be a hero. I got to look really good in the eyes of my clients and of the other people in the industry that looked up to us. I got to gratify my ego and be the guy in the room that everybody wants to talk to. And when I went home, it was dirty diapers and crying kids and, all of that sort of stuff. And so it didn't have that same payoff that I secretly was really looking for in my survival mode. So the payoffs start to look like I get to be right. I get to be honored. I get to stroke my ego. I get to feel comfortable. I get fame or interest. For my example, the prices that I were paying is a strained relationship with my wife, a next to nothing sex life. My kids didn't know me. I didn't know them. I was missing them. They were going to remember all of the events that I missed, all of the stress that I brought home with me, how much their mom had to work in order to make life functional for them, extra hard because I was never around. Prices I was paying was lack of love and connection with the people that I really wanted to love the most and wanted to be loved by the most. So take 10 minutes on each, set a timer, don't stop writing, write all the payoffs and write all the prices. Number 4 is very simple. Create new disciplines around the choices you want to make. Having the vision and the goal isn't enough. In fact, I would say set the vision, all that thing that's above water, right? That vision, set it, make sure it's there. We can call that a goal. We can call it whatever you want to call it. Set the vision, set the goal, and then forget about it. Now outline 2 disciplines that you need to engage in over the next 30 days in order to get you closer to the vision. It only has to get you closer. It doesn't have to get you all the way there. An elephant is eaten one bite at a time. So I'm asking you to outline 2 disciplines that you can start doing today. And disciplines mean, what am I going to get committed to and do on a regular basis that's going to get me closer to that vision? And I want you to forget the vision and focus on the disciplines only. Check them off every day that you do them. Don't check them off and feel the pain of that every time you don't do them. So my friends, as you put this method into practice over and over and over again, the water level on that iceberg will start to lower. You will start to become intimately aware with the subconscious stories that you're telling yourself, or the subconscious aims or goals that you can't see because of your survival or because of your ego. You'll start to see those very plain and clear, and you'll be able to choose the new way of being, the new habits, the new disciplines, and the choices will become automatic because you'll be aware that you don't want to pay those prices anymore. Now I can't wait for you to experience becoming that person that you know you were meant to be. If this video has been helpful at all, please like and subscribe and give me a comment. I would love to hear who it is that you know you're meant to be. I would also love to know what disciplines that you're going to put in place, the 2 or 3 first disciplines that you're going to put in place to actually become that person. Don't forget, the road to freedom is laid in taking action, not words. Peace.